The storm had been building all evening, long before Evra felt the first sharp twist in her belly. It started as a strange stillness, birds falling silent, leaves refusing to rustle, the wind holding its breath as if waiting for something terrible to step into the world. Even the clouds moved differently, rolling across the sky like living things, thick and heavy and dark enough to choke the moon. Evra felt it long before she understood it. Something was wrong. Terribly, impossibly wrong. She had been returning from the river, one hand resting over her swollen stomach, humming softly to the child inside her. The baby always calmed when she hummed. It was one of the few things that still brought her comfort after weeks of Rowan's coldness, weeks of feeling the mate bond fray in places she never knew could break. But tonight the humming did not help. Tonight the air itself rejected peace. Her wolf paced inside her, restless, sharp, pushing claws into her bones. Evra, go back. Now. Her steps quickened automatically, her breath thinning as the pressure in her belly tightened again, lower, sharper, spreading across her spine. Not normal. Not yet. She wasn't due for another 2 weeks. She tried breathing, tried steadying herself, but the second contraction slammed into her so violently she stumbled, catching herself on a tree trunk slick with dew. A strangled sound escaped her lips. Pain radiated outward in crushing waves, twisting her insides, blinding her with a heat so intense she gasped for air. Her legs folded beneath her, her knees hitting the ground with a splash of mud. No, no, not here, she choked, one hand gripping her stomach, the other clawing at the forest floor. Not like this. The forest gave no answer. Thunder growled overhead. And the pain returned, stronger than before. Her breath caught in her throat as the contraction forced her forward, forehead nearly touching the dirt. Something wasn't right. This wasn't normal labor. This was tearing, unnatural tearing, as if something inside her was being ripped open by a force older than her blood. Her wolf recoiled with a fearful whine. This is wrong. This is not how our pup should come. Call him. Call your mate. Evra swallowed hard, tears mixing with rain as she dug her fingers deeper into the mud. Rowan, she whispered. The bond flickered weakly. She felt nothing from him. No concern. No pain. No echo of her fear. Only cold, empty silence. For the first time in her life, she wondered if she still had a mate at all. A sudden rustle snapped through the trees. Evra lifted her head, vision swimming, blinking through the rain. A shadow approached. When Rowan stepped into view, her breath broke, not from relief, but from a deeper, sharper hurt. He didn't run to her. He didn't shift. He didn't kneel or offer his hand. He stood there, staring at her as if she were a stranger bleeding on his land. The storm lit his face with jagged flashes of white light. His eyes were dark, unreadable, his jaw tense. His cloak billowed behind him as cold wind surged through the clearing. Evra, he said, voice flat. Her heart cracked at the sound of it. Rowan, she gasped, reaching out as another contraction tore through her forcefully enough to make her cry out. It's early. Something's wrong, please. He took a slow step forward, but stopped halfway, the hesitation in his shoulders almost deliberate. You shouldn't have come back, he said. Evra blinked, rain and tears sliding down her cheeks. What? The elders warned you. You were told to stay away from the pack until the birth. That was before. She winced as another wave pulled a sob from her. Before this started. I didn't know. Rowan, please, I need help. I need the healers. You are not going near the healers, Rowan snapped, eyes flashing with something dangerous and deeply unfamiliar. Not with the prophecy circling around you. Evra froze. A cold shiver crawled up her spine despite the feverish heat of her labor. Rowan, she whispered, shaking her head. Not now. Please. Don't do this now. The heavens rumbled with thunder as if echoing her fear. But Rowan only stared at her, arms folded, shoulders stiff. You put my pack at risk the moment you conceived that child, he said. I should have listened sooner. The words hit harder than the contractions. Evra's breath left her in a trembling rush. Don't say that, she whispered. You're my mate. Rowan's lips parted. But what came out was not recognition. Not love. Not even anger. It was rejection. Then consider the bond severed. Evra's vision shattered. Something inside her chest cracked, not just emotionally, but physically. The bond pulsed once, painfully, as if a cord had been stretched too far and snapped. Her wolf screamed. Evra did not. She couldn't. The pain, both emotional and physical, merged into one unbearable wave that stole her voice, stole her strength, stole the last remnants of the future she once saw with him. Rowan's eyes flickered. Not with guilt. Not with regret. But with relief. Stay here, he said. Do not return to the pack house. If the omen is true, birthing that child within our borders will bring ruin. Rowan. Evra's voice cracked open. You're leaving me? While I'm in labor, he finished coldly. Yes. But I'm your Luna. No, he said. You were. Those two past tense syllables burned like fire. Another contraction slammed through her, harder, deeper, crushing her ribs, curling her spine. She fell sideways into the mud with a choked cry. She reached out again, one desperate hand clawing toward him. Rowan stepped backward, turned, and walked away. Not once did he look back. Not once did he hesitate. Not once did he shift when he heard her scream. The empty clearing swallowed his absence like a wound. Evra curled into herself, sobbing through pain so profound it felt like it could kill her right where she lay. Her wolf whimpered inside, broken, grieving, terrified. He left us. He left us to die. He didn't even smell our fear. He didn't care. Lightning cracked overhead, splitting the sky into blinding shards. Rain poured harder, cold needles attacking her skin as another contraction ripped through her. She felt heat spreading down her thighs, blood mixing with rainwater, dark and terrifying. Her breathing faltered. Her vision darkened at the edges. A sound broke through the storm. A low growl. Evra's head snapped up, heart hammering. Several figures slinked between the trees, thin wolves with patchy fur, ribs visible, eyes glowing with feral hunger. Rogues. 5 of them. They stepped into the clearing slowly, sniffing the air, lips curling back in anticipation. They had smelled the blood. Evra forced herself onto her elbows, clutching her belly with one hand, the ground with the other. She tried to summon her wolf, tried to pull strength from somewhere, anywhere, but her body was failing her, torn between labor and the agony of rejection. The first rogue growled, saliva dripping from jagged teeth. Not my baby, Evra whispered. But they didn't understand mercy. They understood smell. And she smelled like prey. The first rogue lunged. She screamed. A blur of silver slammed into the rogue midair with a sound that cracked bone. The rogue's body flew backward and smashed into a tree, collapsing in a heap. Evra blinked. Rain blurred her sight, but even through the storm she saw him. A massive wolf, larger than any wolf she had ever seen. For shifting between obsidian and molten silver. Eyes glowing with pure, electric blue dominance. Muscles rippled under his coat, every movement precise, lethal, silent. He was power. He was fury. He was an alpha in his truest form. The rogues froze. Then the silver wolf roared. The sound shook the trees. The fight lasted seconds. 2 rogues charged. He met them with terrifying speed, ripping one's throat out and crushing the other beneath his weight. Another tried to flee. He chased, pounced, snapped its spine. The last rogue barely turned before he tore it apart with ruthless efficiency. Then, silence. Except for the storm. Except for Evra's shallow, broken breathing. The silver wolf stood among the bodies, chest rising and falling with controlled breaths, rainwater streaking down his powerful frame. He turned slowly toward her. Not as a threat. As if drawn. A pull. A recognition. His glowing eyes locked onto hers, and Evra felt heat ripple across her skin. The wolf stepped forward. And shifted. His bones cracked, limbs reshaped, fur receded. Muscles tightened beneath drenched skin. In the space where the beast had stood, a man rose to his full height. Tall. broad, bare-chested beneath the rain, covered in blood and stormlight. Draven Thorn, alpha of the Mooncrest Pack, Rowan's sworn rival. The most feared alpha on the eastern border. Evra's breath hitched, not from fear, but from something deeper, primal, instinctive. Draven's gaze dropped to her belly. Her blood. Her trembling. Her painful breaths. His expression sharpened. He knelt beside her without hesitation. "Who did this to you?" His voice was gravel and heat and rage restrained by the thinnest possible thread. Evra tried to answer, but the contraction stole her words. She collapsed against his arm, crying out. Draven caught her instinctively, supporting her weight with surprising gentleness. His hand spread across her back, steady and warm against her freezing skin. "It's early," she gasped. "Too early. I'm bleeding. Something's wrong." Draven's jaw tensed violently. He slid an arm under her legs and lifted her effortlessly. The moment his skin touched hers, lightning flashed. Wind froze. The world paused. A shock rippled through her body like electricity, hot, sharp, undeniable. Her wolf gasped inside her mind. "Mate." Evra went still. So did Draven. His grip tightened subconsciously as his breath hitched. His glowing eyes widened, almost imperceptibly, but enough for her to see it. He felt it too. The pull. The spark. The soul-deep recognition impossible to fake. A true bond. One that shouldn't exist. Evra trembled. "Draven, this can't be." "We talk later," he said, voice low, steady, fierce. "Right now, you're dying." "I don't want to lose my baby," she whispered. "You won't," he said. Not a promise. A vow. She believed it. Her head dropped against his shoulder, breath shallow, body trembling. Draven adjusted his hold on her, shielding her from the rain with his broad frame as he strode through the storm with the confidence of a man who feared nothing, not prophecy, not rival alphas, not fate. Lightning illuminated them in flashes. Thunder followed like drums in an ancient war. And Evra's consciousness began to slip, the world fading at the edges. Her wolf whispered one final question. "Why did fate bind us?" To the one alpha Rowan feared more than death? Evra slipped into darkness, with that question echoing through her soul. Rain struck the forest like 1,000 needles as Draven carried Evra through the trees, his arms firm beneath her trembling body. The storm drowned the world in sound, wind howling, branches cracking, the ground sloshing with mud, but somehow she heard only one thing. His heartbeat. Deep. Steady. Unwavering. It vibrated through his chest into her cheek where her head leaned against him. Each thump grounded her, held her, pulled her back from the brink when her vision flickered. Evra clung weakly to him, fingers curling into the bare skin of his shoulder. Her wolf stirred beneath the pain, drawn to his heat, drawn to him, despite everything. The mate pull hummed between them like a barely tethered thread. Impossible. Wrong. Unwanted. But there. Unshakable. Draven didn't speak as he moved his jaw tight, eyes narrowed, mouth set in a hard line, but she could feel the storm raging inside him just as clearly as the one around them. He was angry. Not at her. At whoever had abandoned her. Each breath stormed out of him with more force, and each step made his muscles bunch beneath her touch. His grip tightened whenever she whimpered, his aura flaring with protective dominance that wrapped around her like a shield. Evra felt the shift in the air whenever she moaned in pain. Felt his wolf trying to surface. Felt the growl trapped in his throat. He was furious for her. That alone almost made her break. She shut her eyes as another contraction rolled through her, sharp, twisting, violent. Her breath hitched, and she clutched his chest as her entire body shook. Draven slowed instantly, lowering his head toward her. "Breathe," he murmured. "In through your nose. Out through your mouth." His voice was a deep rumble, grounding, commanding. Her wolf responded before she even realized she was obeying. She tried. God, she tried. But the pain was ripping her open from the inside. "I can't," she gasped. It hurts so much." Draven's jaw flexed. "You're strong. Stronger than you think. I need you awake." But her vision blurred again, darkness pulling at her edges. He shifted her weight in his arms, tightening his hold until his warmth surrounded her entirely. "Evra," he said, voice low but sharp enough to cut through the haze. "Stay with me." She forced her heavy eyes open. His face hovered over hers, drenched in rain, shadowed, fierce. His blue eyes glowed unnaturally bright in the stormlight, pulsing with alpha power. "Good," he whispered, breath fanning her lips. "Keep your eyes on me." She tried. She failed. She tried again. Every attempt stole the last of her strength. "Rowan." Evra choked out the name without meaning to, a broken sound escaping her as another contraction seized her. Draven stopped walking. The storm went silent for one suspended heartbeat. His entire body went rigid beneath her, his arms tightening as if to prevent her from falling apart. "What about him?" His voice was deadly soft. Evra swallowed, her throat burning. "He left me," she whispered. He said the child would destroy the pack. Draven's breathing changed slow at first, then sharper, heavier, more dangerous. The forest seemed to recoil. "And so he left you alone," Draven said quietly in the rain, in labor, bleeding. Evra couldn't finish her words. She didn't have to. Draven understood. His aura exploded outward like a shockwave. The trees trembled. Birds scattered. The air vibrated with raw fury. Evra whimpered, not from fear, but from the force of it pressing against her weakened body. Draven immediately pulled the power back, pressing her gently into his chest. "Easy," he murmured, his voice gruff, but softer now. "I'm not angry at you." Her tears spilled silently. His steps resumed long, confident strides that cut through the storm as if the forest itself obeyed him. He moved toward the Mooncrest border, far from where she had collapsed. The scent changed around them, less Shadowvale pine and earth, more steel, smoke, and rain. Evra's thoughts tangled together in panic. "You're taking me to your territory," she whispered. "Yes." No, you can't. "If Rowan finds out." "Rowan abandoned you," Draven growled. "He forfeited any claim the moment he walked away. But the Pax will not question me." A hint of steel coated his words. "My laws are not Shadowvale's. My pack does not leave women in labor to die on the forest floor." Evra's throat tightened. "If your wolves find out I'm carrying another Alpha's child." Draven stopped again. This time, he lowered her slightly so her face aligned with his, inches apart. Rain dripped from his chin onto her lips. "We will deal with that when you and the child are safe," he said. "Not before." Evra swallowed, exhausted, cold, trembling. His scent, wood smoke, storm wind, iron, washed over her, warm against the bite of the storm. Her wolf pushed against her ribs, trying to get closer, seeking comfort in him despite everything. Evra forced the feeling down. "What about the mate bond?" she whispered. Draven froze. The storm roared louder. "What about it?" His voice dipped low. "It shouldn't exist." Evra's breath hitched. "I'm already mated." Rowan, You felt it. It wasn't a question." Evra shut her eyes, shame and confusion twisting inside her. "I didn't want to. But you did." She trembled. "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "The bond with Rowan it's weak but it's still." Draven cut her off with a low growl. "The one who leaves you to die is no mate." Evra's breath stuttered. A tear escaped. He felt it. He brushed it away with the edge of his thumb without hesitation, a gentle stroke that made something deep inside her crack open. "Don't cry," he murmured. "You're safe now." Evra stared at him, speechless. Safe. The word felt foreign on her tongue, but real in his arms. A bolt of pain dragged her back to reality. She cried out, clutching his chest as another contraction ripped through her. Draven held her tighter, lowering her back into his arms. "Just a little further," he said. "Hold on." I can't." "Yes, you can," Draven murmured. "You will." "I'm here." He kept walking. Her breath hitched with every step. Her body tensed, cracked, shook. She drifted between consciousness and darkness, only staying awake because of the strength in his voice pulling her back every time. At some point, she didn't know when, the storm faded behind them, replaced by a deeper quiet. Evra blinked, lifting her head weakly. They had crossed into Mooncrest land. The atmosphere changed instantly. The air grew thicker with power. The trees stood taller. The world felt protected. The scent of wolves lingered in the distance, watchful, curious, but nowhere near challenging. Evra shivered. Your pack is under orders not to interfere, Draven said. They fear me more than they fear trespassers. She didn't doubt it. Another contraction hit, so sharp she screamed. Draven held her through it, murmuring soft, studying words she barely heard but felt. We're almost to the den. 2 more minutes. Stay with me, Evra. Open your eyes. Look at me. She did. Barely. But she did. Her vision flickered around the edges. His voice reached her again. Breathe. That's it. You're strong. His steps slowed as a clearing opened before them. A cavern-like shelter built into a hillside came into view, marked by strong stone pillars and moss-covered walls. Mooncrest's healing den. Warm firelight flickered inside. Evra exhaled shakily. Safe. Yes, he whispered. He carried her into the den without hesitation. Inside, it was warm, shockingly warm, lit by torches and a large stone fire pit in the center. Herbs hung from the ceiling on thick twine, their scent calming the air. Firs covered the ground in layers. The sound of rain softened behind stone walls. Draven laid her gently onto a wide bed of wolf pelts, sliding a thick fur over her shivering body. Her breathing steadied for a moment. He moved around her quickly, lighting another lantern, dragging a low table closer, gathering dried herbs from bundles hanging overhead. His movements were controlled, efficient, practiced. Evra watched him from half-lidded eyes. You know, healer work, she whispered. Draven didn't pause. Every alpha should know how to tend the wounded. Evra blinked slowly. Rowan doesn't. That is one of his many failures. She didn't know how to respond. He knelt beside her again, his presence filling the space like heat, like safety, like something her wolf desperately needed. Let me check the bleeding, he said softly. Evra nodded weakly. He pushed the fur aside and assessed her quickly but carefully, jaw flexing as he took in the amount of blood. His voice lowered to a growl. This should never have happened. He left you like this. Evra swallowed. He didn't want the child. Draven's eyes darkened to near black. Then he is no alpha. She didn't argue. Another wave of pain surged, and she arched off the pelts with a cry. Without hesitation, Draven moved behind her, supporting her back, letting her lean into him as she shook. You're doing well, he murmured. Stay with me. The contraction faded, leaving her panting and soaked in sweat. Draven's arm stayed around her waist. Evra leaned into him because the alternative was collapsing. You're warm, she whispered. His breath hitched slightly. I was born under a blood moon. Heat stays with me. She blinked. A rare moonborn alpha. That's what the legends say. Evra's wolf purred at the warmth. Draven cleared his throat, withdrawing slightly but not completely. I'll prepare a brew to ease the pain. Evra nodded. He stood, grabbing herbs, grinding them with practiced hands. His movements were strong but quiet, focused but gentle. Every few seconds he glanced back at her, checking her breathing, her color, the tension in her muscles. Something about his attention made her chest tighten. He cares. The thought broke something inside her. Not because she wanted him to, but because she had forgotten what it felt like. When he returned with the steaming cup, he lifted her gently and helped her drink. It tasted bitter, earthy, metallic. But warmth spread through her almost instantly. You're safe, Draven murmured again, thumb brushing her jaw as he lowered her back onto the pelts. Evra's eyes fluttered. Her wolf curled peacefully for the first time all night. Why, she whispered, half-conscious, are you helping me? I'm your rival's mate. Draven leaned closer, his breath brushing her cheek. He stopped being your mate, he said quietly, the moment he stopped being worthy. Evra's breath paused. His gaze held hers, blue fire meeting broken gold. And you, Draven murmured, deserve better than to die alone in the rain. Her eyes welled again. He reached out, brushing away a tear with his thumb. Rest, he whispered. I'll keep watch. Evra tried to stay awake. She failed. Her eyes closed, her breathing softened, her body sinking into the warmth of the pelts and the heat of the den and the scent of the alpha who refused to abandon her. The last thing she felt before darkness took her was a large, warm hand covering hers. And the last thing she heard was Draven's wolf growl, low, protective, possessive. Mine. She dreamed of warmth. And fire. And eyes the color of a storm-lit sea. And the terrifying, impossible truth that fate had already decided. The bond she had with Rowan was dying. The one with Draven was waking. Warmth tugged Evra back into consciousness, not sudden, not startling, but slow and steady, like drifting up from deep waters. Her eyelids were heavy, her limbs heavier, but the stabbing agony that once tore through her body had dulled to a low, dragging ache. Her breathing eased. Her wolf rested quietly, still uneasy, but no longer howling in panic. A soft crackle of fire reached her ears. A scent drifted through the air, earth and smoke and iron and something distinctly masculine. Her heart fluttered before her mind caught up. She opened her eyes. The den glowed gently with firelight, shadows swaying across the stone walls. She lay atop layered wolf pelts, bundled in thick furs that wrapped warmth around her trembling body. For a few seconds, she didn't remember where she was. And then, a presence. She turned her head slightly. Draven sat beside her, elbows resting on his knees, head lowered as if deep in thought. His hair, still damp from the storm, fell over his forehead. A few streaks of dried blood, likely from the rogues, marked his forearms. He was bare-chested save for a dark cloth draped loosely over his shoulder, and firelight danced along the scars lining his torso. Ancient scars. Violent ones. The kind only an alpha earned in battles meant to kill him. He hadn't noticed her waking. He stared into the fire with a stillness she didn't expect from a man known for brutality. But beneath that stillness was something else, a storm held tightly behind his ribcage. Evra inhaled shakily. His head snapped up. Their eyes met. His expression changed instantly, tension fading, sharpness softening. Relief flickered across his features so briefly she barely caught it. But her wolf saw it. Felt it. "You're awake," Draven murmured. His voice was lower than she remembered, maybe because he had spent the night speaking softly to her, calming her, helping her through the worst of her pain. Evra shifted slightly. A sharp ache shot through her belly. She winced. Draven moved closer without hesitation. "Careful. Don't sit up too fast." His hand slid behind her back, supporting her gently. Heat radiated from his skin, steady and grounding. Evra's breathing hitched, not only from the pain, but from the closeness, his scent, his warmth, the way his alpha aura wrapped around her like an invisible blanket. She hated how much her body reacted to him. She hated how her wolf leaned into it. Where am I?" she whispered. "My territory," Draven said. "The Mooncrest Healing Den." Evra swallowed, realization sinking in. "I cross borders, without permission." "You crossed nothing," he corrected. "I carried you." She blinked, overwhelmed by the memory of his arms around her, the storm raging around them, the mate bond pulling like a live wire. "Your wolves," she whispered. "Won't they see it as betrayal?" "They will see it as my choice," Draven said simply. "And none of them dare question my choices." A faint tremor of authority edged his voice, not boastful, not arrogant, just factual. Alphas didn't need to proclaim power. Their presence did. Evra tried to sit up again. Draven placed a hand on her shoulder, pushing gently but firmly. "Easy," he murmured. "You lost too much blood. I had to stop the hemorrhaging myself." Evra's eyes widened. "You? But healers. We're not summoned," he said. "Not yet." "Why?" Draven paused, studying her face. "You were confused. Frightened." The bond was reacting. His jaw tightened slightly. "I didn't want anyone to overwhelm you." Evra's heart skipped. He protected her from his own pack? Her breath trembled. "You shouldn't have put yourself at risk. Bringing me here, if your wolves find out Rowan's mate is." At this moment, Draven said, voice sharper, "My only concern is that you live." The words hit harder than she expected. Evra looked down at her hands resting atop her stomach. Her belly still ached, but the pain had lessened. The contractions had slowed. Her body had not gone into full labor yet. The baby was still inside her. Alive. She exhaled in relief, a tear slipping down her cheek. Draven noticed instantly. His hand hesitated only for a second before brushing the tear gently away. Evra stiffened, startled by the tenderness. "You don't need to cry," he said softly. "You're safe." Her lips parted. "I'm not used to hearing that." His eyes darkened with something unreadable. He looked away briefly, grabbing a small clay bowl filled with a pale mixture and holding it toward her. "Drink this. It will help with the cramps." Evra sniffed it. "It smells terrible." "It works," Draven replied. "That doesn't make me feel better." His lips twitched the barest hint of a smile. "Drink, Evra." She obeyed before she fully realized she was obeying. The drink was bitter, but warmth spread through her stomach almost instantly, easing the worst of the pressure. She leaned back against the pelts, studying him. He returned to his place beside her, posture straight, expression serious again. "Your child is strong," he said. "Stronger than you know." Her eyes widened. "How do you?" "I have seen births," Draven said. "I know the signs." The bleeding was severe, but the heartbeat never faltered. Evra's hand trembled over her stomach. "Thank the moon." Another silence stretched thick, heavy, humming with unsaid things. Evra inhaled. "Draven." He met her gaze. The bond pulled. Warm. Electric. Wrong. Right. She swallowed hard. "What exactly did you feel when you touched me in the forest?" Draven's jaw flexed. The fire crackled. His voice, when it came, was quiet but unflinching. "The truth." Evra's pulse stumbled. "Which is?" Draven leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly, as if afraid that touching her again would spark something neither of them was ready for. "Our wolves reacted," he said slowly. "Not from fear. Not from dominance. From recognition." Evra exhaled shakily. "Recognition." The word tasted dangerous. "Draven," she whispered, "I have a mate." "You had one," he corrected. "But even that bond was fading before tonight." Evra shook her head, voice cracking. "But Rowan and I, we marked each other." "Our bond was weak," Draven said. "Too weak for two ranked wolves. Too thin for true destiny." Evra's eyes stung. "You don't know that," she whispered. "I do," Draven replied. "A true bond cannot be ignored. Cannot be broken by fear or prophecy. And it never allows a man to leave his mate to die." The words pierced her like arrows. She turned her face away, eyes burning. "You don't understand everything." "I understand enough." Frustration, grief, and exhaustion tangled inside her. "Draven, even if the bond with Rowan is weak, this, whatever this is, shouldn't exist. It's not possible. It's not allowed." Draven let out a slow breath. "Fate doesn't care about rules." Evra's throat tightened. He leaned closer, voice lowering. "When I lifted you in the storm, something inside me shifted. The bond did not ask permission. It woke. And I felt." He stopped himself abruptly. Evra's heart pounded. "What did you feel?" she whispered. For a moment, the fire crackled louder, filling the space between them. Draven's blue eyes fixed on her, intense, searching, conflicted. "Mine," he murmured. Evra froze. Her wolf gasped. Her pulse leaped. She broke eye contact instantly, staring at the fire instead. Her chest tightened painfully. "Draven, please don't say things like that." "It is the truth," he said quietly. "The truth will start a war." Draven leaned back slightly, studying the curve of her shoulders, the shifting emotions on her face. "A war is already coming," he said. "With or without us." Evra swallowed hard. "Because of the child?" "No," his voice hardened. "Because of Rowan." Evra stiffened. "What about Rowan?" Draven hesitated, a rare thing for an alpha. Then he rose to his feet and began pacing slowly, the tension in his steps telling her the answer would not be comforting. "After I brought you here," he said, "my scouts informed me that Rowan has issued a false report." Evra's blood ran cold. "What kind of report?" "That you were taken by rogues at the border." Evra's pulse spiked. "Taken by rogues?" "But Rowan knew I." "He lied," Draven said. To hide what he did. To hide that he left you. To hide his shame. Evra pressed a hand to her mouth. Draven continued, voice clipped. He sent patrols out searching for a body. Her stomach dropped. A body. He expects you dead, Draven said. He wants to be rid of the prophecy. And of you. Evra's vision blurred. Not from pain. From heartbreak. From a truth she wished she could unhear. Her voice came out small. What is he planning to do if I survive? Draven turned toward her fully. His eyes softened only for her. He will try to reclaim you, Draven said. And the child. To control the prophecy. Evra shook her head, tears falling freely now. No, he didn't want us. He rejected us. He walked away. And now he regrets the decision, Draven said. Or fears the consequences. Or both. Evra's breath stuttered. The child kicking inside her suddenly felt more vulnerable. More endangered. Her wolf pushed forward, growling softly beneath her ribs. Draven noticed. He approached her again, kneeling in front of her. Evra, look at me. She lifted her eyes. His hand hovered near hers, but didn't touch, not until she leaned forward ever so slightly. Then he took her hand gently. Her breath hitched. His thumb brushed over her knuckles, slow, calming, grounding. You are not going back to him, Draven whispered. Not while I live. Evra's lips parted. Draven. I will not hand you or the pup to a man who abandoned you, he said. And if he attempts to take you by force. He stopped. His eyes glowed faintly. Lightning flashed outside the den, illuminating his fierce expression. I will kill him. Evra's heart slammed against her ribs. Draven, no. You are under my protection, he said, voice low and certain. And my packs. Let Rowan try to cross my borders. Her chest tightened. Her wolf howled softly, approval mixed with fear. Evra looked at Draven's face, at the firelight catching the sharp lines of his jaw, the scars across his chest, the wild glow in his eyes. The bond pulsed again. Warm. Dangerous. Real. Evra exhaled shakily. You're going to start a war. Draven leaned forward, his forehead nearly touching hers. No, he whispered. Rowan already did. The moment he chose fear over you. Evra swallowed hard. Emotions surged inside her: fear, confusion, longing, grief. The storm inside her chest felt like it would tear her apart. And yet Draven's presence steadied it all. He stood, placing another fur over her trembling body. Rest, he murmured. Your body needs strength. And I need to decide how to handle a pack that thinks you're dead. Evra closed her eyes. But not before she felt Draven brush a light kiss against her forehead, so soft she almost believed she imagined it. Almost. His voice drifted to her as she slipped into sleep again. Sleep, Evra. I will guard every breath you take. Her wolf sighed. And for the first time since Rowan walked away, Evra slept without fear. Morning crept into the den slowly, as if uncertain whether it was welcome here. Pale shafts of light filtered through a gap in the stone ceiling, illuminating drifting dust motes and tracing soft gold across the sleeping furs. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, warm enough to keep the chill at bay. Evra stirred first. A dull ache hummed through her lower belly, but the stabbing contractions of the night before had quieted, settling into an uncomfortable pressure. She wasn't in active labor anymore. She had been pulled back from the brink. Her wolf curled anxiously beneath her ribs, still weak, still wary, but alive and present. She blinked the haze from her eyes. The first thing she saw was Draven. He sat at the mouth of the den, leaning against the stone frame, long legs stretched in front of him, arms crossed as he watched the forest outside. His back muscles were tense beneath the dark wrap he'd thrown over his shoulders. His hair, no longer dripping but still damp, framed his face in unruly strands. If she hadn't known he was awake, she might have mistaken him for a statue carved by the moon. His aura rippled, aware, alert, coiled like a predator waiting for an ambush. Evra studied him quietly. There was something different about him in the morning light. Less terrifying, more human. Or maybe that was her mind trying to soften the edges of the bond so she could understand it. She tried to sit up. The soft rustle of furs was all it took. Draven was at her side before she fully realized she'd moved. "You shouldn't sit alone yet," he murmured, one hand at her back as he supported her weight. "You still have pain?" Evra nodded weakly. "Just a little." His gaze scanned her face, reading every twitch of discomfort as if it were printed in the air. "Tell me where." "Lower stomach." "Not like last night." "Just pulling." "That's normal after early labor stalls," Draven said. "Your body is trying to protect the child." Evra exhaled shakily. "How do you know so much about births?" His jaw twitched as he adjusted her position against the furs. "My mother was a healer." "I learned what she knew." There was a shadow in his voice, a memory steeped in pain, but Evra chose not to pry. He reached for a small clay cup on the stone table and held it to her lips. "Drink." She hesitated. "Another bitter one?" "Yes." Evra wrinkled her nose. "You must be fun at celebrations." Draven blinked. Then, barely, a smile flickered. It changed his entire face. Evra's breath hitched. She took the drink before she could embarrass herself further, grimacing as the bitterness hit her tongue. Draven steadied her through it, hand supporting the back of her head. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "You know, for a feared alpha, you're surprisingly gentle." The smile vanished instantly. He looked away, jaw clenching. "Gentle doesn't win wars." "You think we're at war?" "We will be." He didn't sugarcoat it. Rowan is not the kind of man who allows himself to be shamed. Evra's stomach twisted. "He doesn't know I'm alive yet." "He will soon." "How?" Draven didn't answer immediately. Instead, he rose and walked to the entrance again, scanning the tree line beyond the border. "Because my scouts saw Shadowvale wolves at dawn near my river." Evra's heart skipped. "Looking for me?" Draven nodded once. "Yes. And when they don't find a body, they will report that you vanished." Which tells Rowan one thing. Evra swallowed hard. "That someone took me. And he'll know who." Draven's voice was hard as stone. "There are only 2 packs strong enough to challenge him. And only 1 alpha bold enough to rescue a woman he left in the rain." Evra's breath shook. "You saved me," she whispered. His head turned toward her. "It was not a choice." "But it was," she whispered. Draven stepped inside again, his expression unreadable. "If fate pushes you into fire, you either burn or reach for someone." Evra's heart fluttered painfully. "And which one was I?" Draven approached her slowly. When he reached her, he knelt, bringing his face level with hers. "You," he said quietly, "were the one worth reaching for." Her breath trembled. Her wolf pushed forward so hard she nearly gasped. She looked down, unable to hold his gaze any longer. "Draven, this bond." "I know," he said softly. "It wasn't supposed to happen." She felt his fingers brush her hand, not gripping, not claiming, just resting there. "But it did." Evra exhaled shakily. "And Rowan will feel it." Draven's eyes flashed with cold fire. "Let him." Evra shook her head weakly. "If the Packs discover it, if they realize I'm carrying Rowan's child while the bond is reacting to you, they'll call it betrayal." "They would be wrong. But they won't see it that way," she whispered. "Shadowvale will blame me. Mooncrest may blame me too. Mooncrest will not blame you." His voice carried unquestionable authority. "My wolves trust my decisions." Evra looked at him. "Even if it means protecting someone who could ignite conflict?" His jaw tightened. "Especially then." She opened her mouth to argue, but a sudden sharp pulse shot through her lower abdomen. She hissed and grabbed the fur beneath her. Draven's demeanor changed instantly. "What happened?" He reached her side in a breath. "Is the pain returning? Are the contractions?" "No," Evra said, panting. "Just movement." "The baby's moving." "Harder than usual." Draven laid a careful hand across her stomach, not touching the bare skin, but pressing lightly through the furs. Evra felt warmth radiate through her. "Strong movement," he murmured. "Good sign." Evra closed her eyes, focusing on the rhythm within her. The child kicked again, forcefully, almost angrily. Draven stiffened. "What is it?" she asked. "That wasn't just movement," he said slowly. "That was power." Evra's eyes snapped open. "Power." Draven nodded. "Ranked wolf pups sometimes surge in the womb during danger." It's rare, but it means the child has strong instincts. Evra's heart fluttered with awe and fear. Is that normal? For alphas born under fate, Draven said softly. Evra blinked. Under fate? His gaze locked onto hers. Yes. The den felt suddenly smaller. He drew a slow breath. I didn't tell you everything last night. Cold washed through Evra's veins. About what? The prophecy. Evra's throat tightened. What did Rowan tell the elders? What do your scouts know? Draven sat beside her again, close enough that the side of his leg warmed her hip. There is an old northern prophecy, he began. One that speaks of a night-born Luna and a child who rises under a broken bond. Evra's blood ran cold. What exactly does it say? Draven hesitated. His voice softened with the weight of the words. From the womb of night shall rise a child untouched by fear, marked not by one alpha, but by destiny's chosen pair. His cry shall stir the shadows. His blood shall challenge thrones, and pacts that walk in falsehood shall crumble at his bones. Evra's breath turned to ice. The room spun. That's why Rowan feared me, she whispered. Feared the child. Feared everything. Draven watched her closely, because he saw himself in the line about falsehood. Evra's voice trembled. And you? What do you see? Draven did not blink. I see truth, he said. Your child is strong, born from courage, and fate will protect him. Even if the father wants him dead? Draven's expression hardened. Especially then. Evra wrapped her arms around her stomach. The child kicked again, sensing her fear. Draven reached out and placed his hand gently over hers. Her wolf melted into the touch. Evra, he whispered, your child is not a curse. He is destiny. Emotion hit her so hard she nearly choked. Then why did the bond break with Rowan? Why did it react to you? How can fate expect me to? She stopped, unable to voice the fear. Draven finished it for her. How can fate ask you to survive both betrayal and destiny in the same night? Evra nodded, tears welling. Draven cupped her jaw carefully, tilting her face toward him. It asks because it knows you can. Evra shook her head. I'm not strong. Yes, he murmured, you are. Her eyes stung. How do you know? Because when I found you, Draven whispered, dying in the rain, you were still fighting to protect your child. Evra's throat tightened painfully. And because you survived, he added. Most would not have. Evra looked into his glowing eyes and felt something shift inside her, not because he was claiming her, not because the bond pulled, but because he believed she was worth saving. She had not felt worth anything in so long. Silence stretched between them, thick with emotion, warm from the fire, heavy with unspoken things. Then a sound outside shattered it. A low howl, echoing across the forest. Sharp. Urgent. Draven stood in a heartbeat. His aura burst outward, shaking the torches. Evra's heart jumped. What's happening? Draven's eyes glowed feral blue. A Shadow Veil scout. Too close to the border. Evra's blood chilled. They're looking for me. Yes. His voice turned low, dangerous. And they've crossed into my territory. Evra tried to rise. Pain shot through her, and she gasped. Draven rushed back to her side, pressing a steadying hand to her shoulder. No, he said. Do not move. Do not strain yourself. Evra's breath came fast. If they find me, they won't get near you. But Rowan will call it an attack. Draven's jaw flexed. Let him. Draven. He leaned down, eyes burning into hers. I told you, he murmured, you are under my protection. My pack will guard this den with their lives. Evra's heart pounded. Draven straightened his full height, rolling his shoulders as his muscles tensed. He looked like a storm-given flesh, powerful, inevitable, terrifying. Before walking out, he paused and turned back to her. His next words came in a low, intimate growl. Do not fear. I will come back. Evra's chest tightened. Promise? He nodded once. By blood and moon. Her breath caught. The words were ancient. Binding. Sacred. He meant them. Then he disappeared into the light outside, shifting mid-step into a massive silver wolf whose presence shook the earth. Evra watched him go, her heart pounding, her wolf trembling, and her child kicking harder than ever. Whatever destiny waited outside the den. It was coming for them now. The forest didn't whisper when trouble came. It went silent. From inside the den, Evra felt the shift before she heard anything. The air tightened, the fire snapped low, and her wolf lifted her head inside Evra's chest, ears pricked, no longer curled in fear. Something was coming. Paws hit the ground outside, a steady pounding that grew and grew until it felt like a second heartbeat beneath the hill. One howl split the silence, then another answered, then a ring of voices rose around the den, Mooncrest wolves taking their positions. Evra pushed herself upright, ignoring the pull in her lower belly. She shuffled closer to the gap in the stone wall and pressed her palm against the rock, breathing through the lingering ache. "Careful," her wolf warned. "I'm just looking," Evra whispered. "I need to see him." Through the slit, she saw glimpses of fur and shadow, wolves fanning out, forming a barrier of muscle and teeth around the slope. Beyond them, the forest shimmered with morning mist. And at the front, like the point of a spear, stood Draven. In wolf form he was all hard lines and lethal grace, silver fur bristling, tail high, eyes burning bright blue. Power rolled off him in waves that Evra could feel even through stone, that steadied her even as fear tried to climb her spine. Her fingers curled into the wall. A new scent cut through the damp air. Shadowvale. Evra's breath hitched. Old instinct made her heart stumble. Old pain made it hard to breathe. She forced herself to keep watching. 6 wolves stepped out of the trees, dark-furred, lean, moving in a tight cluster. They stopped just short of where Mooncrest scent thickened in the soil. One of them shifted, bones twisting until a man stood where the wolf had been. Cade, Rowan's beta. He had once bowed to her, called her Luna, with real respect in his eyes. Now his face was drawn, stiff, pulled between duty and something like regret. He raised his hands. "Alpha Draven," He raised his hands. "Alpha Draven," he called. "We come to ask, not to fight." Draven didn't move. He didn't shift back. He stood like a statue carved from stormlight. Only when Cade spoke again did Draven's wolf step forward, claws digging into the dirt. "We seek Evra Nightfall," Cade said, voice echoing. "Shadowvale's Luna. She was taken by rogues near this border. Our Alpha demands news of her fate." Evra closed her eyes for a second. Rogues. Taken. That was the story Rowan chose. Draven shifted then, for reseating, bones snapping back into place. In heartbeats, the towering silver wolf became a tall, broad-shouldered man, bare to the waist, rain and mist turning his scars into dark lines across bronzed skin. He stepped right up to the invisible boundary, power coiling around him like smoke. "Your Alpha demands," Draven said calmly after he left her to die. The Shadowvale wolves stiffened. Cade flinched. "Mind your words. You speak about our leader." "I speak about what I saw," Draven answered. "A woman in labor on her knees in the mud. No healer. No pack. Only blood and rogues." A growl rippled through the Shadowvale patrol. Doubt slipped into their eyes, if only for a heartbeat. Cade tried to keep his voice steady. "Evra is bound to Shadowvale. If she lives, she must be returned. It is pack law." Evra's hands shook. It sounded so clean, so simple, when put that way. Pack law. Duty. Belonging. Draven's mouth curved, but it wasn't a smile. "Law," he echoed. "Your Alpha broke the oldest law when he abandoned his mate. He has no claim here. Not on her. Not on the child she carries." Shock flickered in Cade's expression. "The child survived?" "For now," Draven said. "No thanks to him." "And you keep her?" Cade's gaze hardened. "You know what this means, Thorn. Keeping another Alpha's mate is a challenge. If he were a true Alpha," Draven said, "he would be here himself instead of sending you." Silence dropped like a stone. Evra could almost taste the tension through the gap in the wall. Mooncrest wolves crouched lower, ears flat, ready. Shadowvale wolves shifted their weight uneasily, glancing at one another. Cade swallowed. "Rowan will not be pleased." "He can come tell me himself," Draven said. "Stand on this border, look her in the eyes, and hear her say whether she still chooses him." Evra's heart slammed against her ribs. He hadn't warned her he would offer that. But somewhere deep inside, Her wolf was already baring her teeth. Cade shook his head. You ask for a public humiliation. He won't do it. Then he admits his guilt by staying away, Draven replied. You can decide what kind of alpha that makes him. A crack appeared in Cade's mask. He took one step back. The shadow veil wolves around him shifted, sent edging toward confusion instead of blind loyalty. This isn't over, Cade said quietly. It is exactly as over as your alpha chooses, Draven answered. Until then, hear this. Evra Nightfall is under my protection. She will not be dragged anywhere she does not wish to go. The connection humming under Evra's skin flared. Her wolf pressed against her ribs, proud. Cade held Draven's stare a second longer, then shifted back into wolf form with a snap of bone. The patrol turned and vanished into the trees, leaving their confusion behind like a bitter smell. Only when their scent faded did Draven let out a slow breath. He lifted his head to the sky and released a short bark. Mooncrest wolves began to spread out again, forming wider rings of patrol. The battlefield line dissolved back into a forest full of watchful eyes. Then he turned toward the den. Evra moved away from the wall and tried to smooth the furs, as if that could hide how she'd been straining to hear every word. Her heart thudded against her ribs. Her palms were damp. Draven ducked into the den. Their eyes met at once. You shouldn't have been on your feet, he said. Your body needs rest. I needed to know, Evra replied, voice hoarse. Thank you for not giving me back. Draven's gaze deepened. I didn't keep you, Evra. You chose not to go. She stared at him. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. He tapped a finger lightly over his heart. Your wolf answered through the bond. Heat rose to her cheeks. She wanted to argue. She couldn't. He crossed to her, movements slower now that his wolves no longer needed his rage. He knelt beside the pallet, close enough that she could feel the heat rolling off his skin. If he comes, Evra whispered, what if I freeze? What if he twists things like he always does? What if I hear his voice and break? Draven took her hand, threading his fingers through hers with careful certainty. Then I will speak until you remember you have your own voice, he said. You won't stand alone. Not ever again. Her eyes stung. Why? She asked. You barely knew me before that storm. His thumb brushed her knuckles. I knew enough. What did you know? That you protected a child even as your heart was breaking, he said quietly. And that your bond with him, he didn't bother saying Rowan's name, was starving you instead of feeding you. She swallowed. That doesn't make me your responsibility. No, he agreed. The bond does that. It pulsed between them in that moment, warm and sharp, making it hard to breathe. Evra broke eye contact first, looking down at her swollen belly. The ache had been replaced by a constant pressure, heavy and low. The prophecy, she said. Rowan said the child would destroy Shadowvale. Draven's jaw tightened. Rowan fears losing control. That is not the same as destruction. What if he's right, she whispered. What if the prophecy is a curse? Draven squeezed her hand gently. Fate doesn't waste time on curses, he said. Only on turning lies inside out. Her laugh came out broken. You sound very sure. I am sure of this, he said. Your child is not the threat. The man who abandoned you is. Before she could answer, a sharp pain gripped her lower abdomen. This time it wasn't a dull pull. It was a clean, brutal squeeze that stole her breath. Evra gasped and bent forward, hands flying to her stomach. Draven's voice dropped. Evra? Talk to me. Contraction, she hissed. Stronger. Another hit before the first fully faded, rolling through her with crushing force. Her vision blurred. Sweat broke across her forehead. Her water hadn't fully broken last night. Now she felt a sudden warmth gush between her thighs, soaking the furs. Her wolf's voice went sharp and bright inside her. Now. It's time. Draven moved fast, but his hands were steady. He shifted behind her so she could brace against him, wrapped one arm around her waist, and grabbed extra pelts with the other, working with the efficiency of someone who had done this before. Listen to me, he murmured near her ear. We did not fight through the storm for you to give up now. Breathe. When the wave rises, you push. I'll hold you. Fear surged, wild and choking. What if something goes wrong? What if? In the world of pacts and prophecy, Draven whispered, voice dropping into that low, storytelling cadence that wrapped around her like smoke. Every heartbeat matters. If this moment has you shaking, if fear is clawing through your ribs, remember this. You are not just a name in someone else's omen. You are the Luna who crawled through mud and betrayal and still refused to let go of her child. So, don't look at the what-ifs. Look at me. Hold on. The next breath, the next shove of your strength, it might be the one that drags your destiny screaming into the light. Evra clung to his words like they were a rope over a cliff. The next contraction hit like fire. She screamed, sound ripping from somewhere deep and raw. Her whole body followed the pain, muscles tightening, ribs straining. That's it, Draven said. Good. Again. You're doing exactly what you should. Time blurred. Pain, breath, his voice. The den melted down to heat and shadows and the iron smell of blood. Somewhere outside, wolves paced in restless circles, feeling every spike of her agony through their alpha's aura. Almost there, Draven murmured. When the next one comes, bear down. Don't run from it. Ride it. She wanted to say she couldn't. Her body gave the answer instead. Another wave rose up, huge and merciless. Evra bore down with everything she had left, hands crushing Draven's forearm. A sound tore out of her throat, half scream, half growl, as if her wolf had joined her in the push. Then, suddenly, the pressure changed. Something slid free. A tiny, furious cry split the air. Evra sagged back against Draven's chest, sobbing, every muscle trembling with relief and shock. Draven moved quickly, his hands sure as he caught the small, slippery weight, cleared the airway, and wrapped the newborn in clean fur. The baby's cries grew louder, strong and outraged, the sound of someone who had never once considered surrender. Evra's heart broke open. Is he? Her voice failed. Perfect, Draven answered softly. He brought the bundle into her line of sight. Firelight painted the tiny face in gold and shadow. Dark curls clung damply to a small head. Little fists flailed as if ready to fight the whole world. Evra reached out with shaking hands. Draven placed the baby into her arms as carefully as if he were lowering him onto the surface of the moon. Warmth flooded her chest. The pup's crying softened as soon as he felt her skin. His nose rooted instinctively, tiny mouth seeking comfort. She shifted the fur, helping him find what he needed. The first pull sent a hot, unfamiliar ache through her, but behind it was something else, peace so deep it made her dizzy. Hi, she whispered, tears spilling freely. Hi, my little warrior. He blinked up at her, eyes still dark and unfocused, but for a heartbeat Evra saw a faint flash of gold under the black. Her wolf shivered. That's him, she murmured. That's the child they were so afraid of. Draven sat beside her, closer than before, his shoulder pressed against hers. He watched mother and son with a look on his face she had never seen him wear, a softness that didn't weaken him, but made his strength feel even larger. Afraid of the wrong thing, he said quietly. Evra leaned her head back against the stone, breathing in new scents, milk and smoke and newborn skin. What do we even call him? You haven't chosen a name? Draven asked. I thought Rowan and I would decide together, she admitted. He kept putting it off. Draven was silent for a moment. Then we'll choose one he would hate, he said eventually. Despite everything, she laughed. It hurt. It felt good anyway. Any ideas, Alpha? She asked. Draven's gaze stayed on the child. Something that means truth. Or dawn. Something that says he isn't the end of anything, he's the beginning. Evra studied her son's tiny face. His fingers flexed, clutching weakly at the fur, at the air, at life itself. Kale, she whispered. It means of the pure light in the old tongue. Draven repeated it, tasting the word. Kale. The den seemed to approve. The fire crackled higher for a moment. Kale Nightfall, Evra said. Born under a broken bond, but not broken. She looked at Draven. And guarded by the Alpha who chose him when his own father did not. The bond hummed between them again, now braided with a third, newer thread. Draven's hand covered hers where it cradled the baby. His palm was huge, warm, solid. Kale's tiny fingers brushed his skin, curling around one of his knuckles in a clumsy grip. Power rippled through the contact, subtle but real. The prophecy spoke of a child marked not by one alpha, Evra said softly, but by destiny's chosen pair. Draven's eyes met hers. I don't know what that will demand of us, he admitted. Or how hard the path will be. Rowan will rage. The other packs will talk. Danger will circle these hills for a long time. I know, Evra said. She shifted, resting her head against his shoulder. Kale sighed and drifted toward sleep, his breathing tiny and even. But right now, she whispered, we've survived the first part of the story. Draven turned his head just enough for his cheek to brush her hair. If this beginning has found a home in you, he murmured, voice dropping into a low, intimate cadence that felt like it was meant for firelit nights and long-running tales, don't let it disappear. Hold on to it. Share it. Stand with it when the next storm comes. Because in a world of claws, curses, and destined mates, his fingers tightened gently around hers. Love always finds a way back under the moon. Evra closed her eyes. For the first time since her world had split open in a forest of blood and rain, she did not feel lost between pacts and prophecies. She felt anchored to the warm weight in her arms, to the steady strength at her back, to the strange, wild future humming quietly in the den. Outside, somewhere far away, Rowan would feel the last faded threads of their weak bond crumble into dust. He would know that something had changed, that the child he feared was alive, that fate had not bent to his fear. He would come. When he did, he would not find the broken woman he left kneeling in the mud. He would find a Luna who had survived him, a child who did not belong to his fear, and an Alpha who had chosen them both long before the prophecy named them. Evra kissed Kale's forehead, then rested her cheek against his tiny crown. Draven's arms settled fully around them, a silent claim and a promise in one. 3 heartbeats threaded together beneath the hill. And somewhere high above the den, the clouded sky finally shifted, letting one thin line of moonlight slip through.